What's the play for today? Well, today it's all about the Fineliner. Now, I decided to do this video because people have asked me questions, and most recently Beth asked me a question, I believe over on my blog, if my memory serves correctly, and she was asking about it. And I thought, rather than writing it all out, I decided I'd just show you. Part of why I love these is because I can use them on wet paint. Okay, that's a really big reason why, because I don't want to wait for things to dry, and I ruin pens way too often when I'm right over paint. So this helps solve that problem for me. But what do they look like when you get them? What do you fill them with? Those kinds of things. That's what today's video is all about. So enjoy today's play. So here's how you get a fine line applicator. It's an empty bottle, and when you screw off the top, it has a very fine point tip to it. And there's a little piece of metal in here so that when you put it on the cap, when you put the cap on, what it's doing is basically putting a piece of metal back through the tip so that it never clogs. And that's really important for me because I don't want to wait for things to dry, but I want to write on them, so this is how I manage to do it. What do you fill it with? If it can squirt out that little tip, then you're all good. I tend to use things like high flow paint from Golden, so it might come in a container like this, or things like acrylic inks. Those are the two things I put in there the most. So you can take your acrylic ink, this one's from F&W, it's a nice deep blue, and you can go dropper by dropper and fill it up gently that way, or you can take your life in your own hands and simply pour some in there. And I am very excited to say that it's actually hitting the mark. And I didn't spill any or make a mess yet. Notice the word yet, because the day is not over and I do not have the cap all the way on this. Okay, so I've got some acrylic ink in there. Basically, like I said, anything super runny you can put in here. So let's see this thing in action. I have what I consider to be one of the world's ugliest art journal pages right here. Hands down, it's just ugly to me. What I'm going to do is put some paint over it. So I'm going to very carefully squirt out some paint, and I am just going to brush over some of the icky parts. As I'm doing this, I'm leaving a little bit of the other stuff peeking out, and now I'm ready to write something on here. So I've got wet paint on there and I want to write on it. If I were to put a normal pen on here, it would destroy the pen. But if I do something like this, now I can write. But the tricky part is, as I'm doing this, oh wait, there is no tricky part. You just squeeze and stuff comes out. The way that I do it, sometimes paint will build up on the tip. You simply wipe that off. If the tip ever, sometimes as I'm writing, I kind of end up scooping up paint sometimes. All I do is put the cap, and by the way, this is really not going on smoothly. If you put your finger right there, it guides the needle, the piece of metal, whatever you want, it's not really a needle, piece of metal, right into the hole. Of course, now that the camera's rolling, it's not going to, there we go. And so now I can get writing on here while I've got wet paint. Well, that's one reason why I love using a fine liner so much. Another reason is sometimes there's texture in what I'm doing. With this thing, it is absolutely rough. Probably could even take some sandpaper to it to smooth it out. I don't know whether things are going to stick to it or not. Things are just very, very textured. If I'm going to write over a very textured area like this one down here with the word grow, yeah, pens are going to skip around, cause problems, but if I'm going to use a fine liner, and this one I have white in it, and I'm just going to add a little bit of journaling here. I can easily write over that, even though there's lots of texture. You could hear that scratching as it was catching on things. No problem writing over that. If I was using something like a felt tip pen, it would scratch up and rough up the tip of the pen, and if I was using a ballpoint pen, it just would have skipped all over the place. So one other thing about fine liners is if you don't squeeze much, you get very, very light lines, and if you squeeze a lot, you get heavier lines. So really easy to control because it's just based on how much you squeeze. So there you have a brief introduction to how the fine liners work and what are the places that I prefer to use them the most. Thanks for watching, and of course if you've enjoyed this video, you know I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button, and of course pop on over to the blog, say hello over at acolorfuljourney.com. I also have links to everything that I've used here so that if you want to be able to find the exact ones that I used, those links are waiting for you over on the blog. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey.